What's going on, guys? It's another beautiful day, and we are going to be reacting. Well, I'm going to be reacting to a video that I've been told to check out a couple of times by a few people I know. Have been sending me this link, and they said, "Here's something that you could look at and check out on your channel." And I was like, "Okay." Um, it is called Candice Owens. Quote: "I do not support George Floyd, and here's why." I have heard mixed things about this. I've heard people accuse her of being like I've seen headlines on YouTube about her. People accusing her of being the right side, the right wing way of maintaining a injustice status quo. And then I've heard that people said she's making a lot of good points, so it's a mixed reaction thing. It's clearly controversial, but we're gonna jump right into it, and we're gonna see what it's all about. And I'm going to be stopping this periodically to talk a little bit to you guys in between. You'll be able to hear it, you'll be able to see it. I'm working on a different computer because right now the Chromebooks I'm working off of, I can't do, the embedded video. The software that I need for that doesn't work on this Chromebook. So I'm working on getting a new computer and a camera. But anyway, let's get right into this.
Hello, Facebook family. I have decided to do this video. It has been weighing very heavily on my heart and on my mind as well. And it was something that I wanted to say early on, but there were so many emotions and so much pressure for me to go with a popular opinion about who George Floyd was. And sometimes it can be difficult when there are just so many external pressures to say what you believe. And this was an instance where I felt like my silence would have been better in the beginning, but the more that I think about it, I realize that we are being sold a lot of lies, and at the detriment to the black community, at the detriment to the white community, and at the detriment to America as a whole. So I want to come out and say that I do not support George Floyd and the media depiction of him as a martyr for black America. I'm going to explain why, and I hope that some of you guys will understand where I'm coming from. I have spent a considerable amount of time reading a lot of black authors that I think are some of the most brilliant black Americans breathing. Walter Williams, Shelby Steele, Thomas Sowell, and I recently came across something that was an idea that was planted into my head by Shelby Steele, and it has been something that I cannot forget. It is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And it is something that I hope for the black Americans that are watching will stick with you for the rest of your life. Shelby Steele said that the black community is unique from other communities. Our culture is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. Now, let me explain what that means. It means to say that not every black American is a criminal, not every black American is committing crimes, but we are unique in that we are the only people that fight and scream and demand support and justice for the people in our community that are up to no good. You would be hard pressed to find, a Jewish person who has spent 5 stints in prison, who commits a crime and dies while committing a crime, and that the Jewish people champion and demand justice for. You will be hard pressed to find this in white America. You'll be hard pressed to find this even in Latino America.
Okay, so a couple minutes in, a couple things to unpack there. At first, I relate to her on the first part where she said that she thought that at first her silence would have what was the answer. Just kind of the reason that I did this. I started this video, this channel, and putting up a couple videos on it because I knew people for years that I went to school with, and my first video was all about this. That initially I was coming out and saying that, the police officer, Chauvin, however you say his name, that dirtbag, he, no one's going and defending him. I have not heard one person, and how can you? But I went and talked to some people, and I just posted my opinion on, I saw peaceful protests around my area, and I was like, this is huge numbers, and I was like, this is what we need. This is productive. This is gonna get stuff done. And I said it in a way to where I was like, I wasn't in support of the violent looters and all that stuff. And some people just accuse me of being part of the problem and trying to speak for them. And who am I to say that we or that I should comment on their troubles? And I said, fair point to an extent. And I'm not saying that I am because I can't speak to their problems. I haven't lived it really. I can give you my opinion of what I see from the outside in. But I was shocked that I was accused of being part of the problem because people know me. They know I don't, you know, I don't judge people on that way. It's just, it's small if you do, that's that's just what it comes down to. But I get her saying that she didn't want to come out and openly give her opinion because like she was afraid, of the backlash. Number two, she said about how African Americans are the only uh, ethnicity or race that caters to the bottom denominator of what she said, something like to that extent, saying that they praise criminals. This is what she's saying. I'm just, reiterating that they praise certain people for being criminals and trying to get justice for them. So what I'm assuming is going to happen here, which I didn't look into, but I'm assuming she's going to try to bring up because she said she doesn't support him as a martyr. So I'm assuming she's going to bring up some things that he did. That's my guess here, which I have no idea. I didn't look into George Floyd's past at all, so I don't know. But we'll see if I'm right.
There is a person that is spent multiple times in prison. You are not going to see a bunch of Latinos coming out demanding justice for this person, even if, and I want to be very clear, what I'm saying is not any defense for Derek Chauvin. I hope Derek Chauvin gets the justice that he deserves to be, implemented upon him, and that the family of George Floyd deserves justice for the way that he died. But I also am not going to accept the narrative that this is the best the Black community has to offer. For whatever reason, it has become fashionable over the last 5 or 6 years for us to turn criminals into heroes overnight. And it is something that I find to be despicable, and it is something that I refuse to stand by any longer, and I am not going to play a part in it, no matter how much pressure comes from Black liberals and Black conservatives as some token of people wanting you to believe that this is the only way you can be Black, is you have to say this was wrong and that this person was amazing. I won't do that. George Floyd was not an amazing person, and as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and was looking at the police officer, and everyone agrees that the police officer was wrong, and the police officer has been arrested. So that is not the reason I'm not discussing that, is because that is not something that has been misconstrued in the media. He has been turned into the devil that he is, and there is no reason for us to harp on that any longer, because white Americans are not uplifting Derek Chauvin as a victim or pretending that he's an amazing human being.
Right, that's what it.
But
Yeah,
George
no
Floyd
one's
is being
defending him.
uplifted as an amazing human being.
I haven't heard anybody, and how can you?
Have not yet seen the clips and did not pursue or wait for more clips to come out. First and foremost, George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl, and he was high on methamphetamine. This came back in both of his autopsy reports. If you pursue the 911 transcript, you can see the person describing somebody who is out of their mind high, and which is what made the person fearful, because he tried to use a bill that I guess was a fake bill to purchase something, and then he was outside acting weird, and they, in their police call, said this person was obviously distorted on drugs. When he is put into handcuffs and is put against the wall, a baggie of what looks to be like cocaine or it's white. It's a white baggie that he drops onto the floor that you can see. In
Well, it's all bad for his
the media is refusing to circulate
image so far, but it's,
if you use DuckDuckGo and look up
I don't think any of this stuff
Floyd
is
baggie, you can
still justified. I don't think that's what she's doing. It's not justifying.
He had drugs on him at the time of his arrest.
The officers.
Now, barring all of that, nobody thinks that he should have died during this arrest, but what I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't, and I want to talk about what his lifestyle was leading up to this moment, and why I refuse to accept the narrative that this person is a martyr or should be lifted up in the Black community, and that we should be buying t-shirts with his name on it, okay? So, here we have, first and foremost, let's start from the bottom of his record. And by the way, I am not saying that if you have a record, you don't deserve a second chance. I think people get arrested, and some people can serve time in prison, and I believe in second chances, but I do draw the line when it comes to second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth chances. 1998, he spent 10 months in prison for theft with a firearm. That was the first prison stint that I could find on him. In 2002, he spent 8 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2004, just 2 years later, he spent another 10 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2005, he spent another 10 months in prison for having less than 1 gram of cocaine on him again. In 2007, and this was the biggest
Been in prison for
incident
drugs a lot.
that I had that made me realize this was a horrible human being that
2005,
I
is that what
am
you
not
said?
going to pretend was a good person. In 2005, a woman who was pregnant received a knock at the door, and she went to the door, and the person pretended to be someone that worked for the water department. So she opened her door and quickly realized that the person
Okay.
at her door did not work for the water department and attempted to slam it. At the moment that she was attempting to slam it, a Ford pulled up and another 5 men jumped out of the car, and one of which was George Floyd, came up to the door, and they forced their way inside to her home, inside of her home. Mind you, this woman is pregnant. At that point, George Floyd took out a gun and pressed it to her stomach. As she was screaming, begging for her life, and he put her inside of her living room and instructed one of his criminal friends that was with him to watch her and to make sure she didn't leave the living room. So he was playing guard while they ransacked her home looking for drugs and money. They did not find drugs. They ended up taking, I believe, her wallet and her cell phone. Fortunately for her, her neighbor observed what was going on and caught the license plate of the people as they pulled off and called 911. And when 911 was able to, they were able to track down the car, of which George Floyd was the driver, and they arrested him. And 2 years later, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for that instance. Now, you can say the media is portraying it like he was just getting his life
let's pause it
together
here.
after being released in 2014 following that incident. He was just getting his life together and moved and was going to start afresh. I'd like to believe all of those things, and there's a gap, and he never got in trouble for 5 years until this incident when the police were called on him again. But you are defying common sense to believe that this person suddenly became an exemplary character but happened to be high on fentanyl and methamphetamine and trying to use a bill, a fake bill, to purchase something. And
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, see, I was right in my assumption. So I didn't look into his past, like I said. That's the vibe I was getting. She was going, and that's where she went. Assuming that all these are accurate, she said she pulled records. I would advise anytime you hear anything like this, people accusing somebody of having a record and doing this, make sure that all those are legitimate and their records were actually pulled. Like people saw them. A lot of times they're public. You can get them. You can look for them. If that being the case, I get the point she's making that maybe this guy George Floyd isn't the role model or the face that this movement is looking for, if that's what I'm reading her correctly. In and out of prison for months at a time, years at a time, on and off, armed robbery, down to cocaine, meth possession, in and out of prison for drugs. And then, yeah, that 2005 one was a little, that's kind of gross. You point your gun at a pregnant woman's stomach. Like I said, assuming these are all accurate that she's telling us here, yeah, I get what she's saying, that like this movement is fantastic, that officer is a scumbag, but let's not pretend that George Floyd was a saint in terms of, which that's not what the movement's about. I understand that. It's not about that. It's about there are injustices all the time about, African Americans and a lot of minorities, that happen. But and that kind of thing needs to change. And that's why the whole defund the police, which I'll make another video on, talking about my thoughts on that, is I think the wrong way to go about it, because I think they need more training. But I'll make another video for that, put that up soon, discussing that in depth. I get what she's saying to that extent. Like maybe we shouldn't prop this man up on a pedestal and like he's the symbol, even though he was an act of, or he was, excuse me, a victim of an act of injustice beyond comprehension. Kneeling on their neck for 9 minutes. Come on, that's ridiculous, sick. But because there's still about 10 minutes left of this, so I want to see where she goes with this now. Because I get what she's saying up to now to a point. I understand maybe he shouldn't be the you know poster boy for the Black Lives Matter movement. Maybe that's the main point she's getting at. Not that she doesn't support the cause or what the thing that happened was injustice, but the fact that this isn't who they should have plastered on the bill. But let's continue.
And so, in my opinion, George Floyd was a criminal. He was a criminal. And just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he deserved to die at the knee of a police officer. But it does mean that I am not going to play a part of the broken black culture that always wants to martyr criminals, who wants to pretend they were these upstanding human beings that just wanted to help society, that just wanted to reach out and uplift society. And he has a rap sheet that is long, that is dangerous. He was an example of a violent criminal his entire life, okay? Up until the very last moment. Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not a defense for Derek Chauvin. No one that I have spoken to, no one in the news is defending Derek Chauvin.
Yep.
He is getting what he has coming to him. Okay, great. But why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen, as a martyr in Black America? A martyr for a fake narrative, by the way. Police brutality, racially motivated police brutality is a myth, okay? So let's get into that. Not only are we using this death, right, and allowing it to cause these riots and protests, pretending this was some upstanding citizen in the Black community who was tackled down and killed for no reason, right? Not only are we allowing it to inspire riots in which Black people are dying, in which actual upstanding Black citizens are dying. Case in point, I'm sure you guys have all now seen David, the sheriff that just was shot and killed because he was trying to protect
I saw a lot of those
shop.
kind of things.
Please look him
People
up
just
if you
trying to
haven't
protect
seen
their
it. I'm
stores
blanking
from
on his
looters.
last name. His first name is
Getting
David, who was shot and killed for trying to protect a pawn
destroyed,
shop from
beaten
looters.
up,
An upstanding citizen,
beaten to a pulp
an
in the
actual
process.
head of he was the head of a police his entire life, 77 years old, did everything right? So we now have to kill upstanding Black citizens because a non-upstanding Black citizen, a career Black criminal, died. Now, did he deserve to die in that manner? No. I can't say it enough. No, he didn't deserve to die in that manner. But I will be damned.
That's all I was saying when I
if
spoke
the rest
out
of
was
us upstanding Black citizens have to suffer because of this incident that rarely ever happens in America. So here are some
Was the
numbers.
riots were
for
hurting
you
the wrong people
that are still believing that police brutality is a real, racially motivated police brutality is a real thing. First and foremost, okay, you have a 25% higher chance as a violent white criminal of dying at the hands of a police officer than you do as a Black criminal. Last year, a total of 9 unarmed black men were killed by police officers, and 19 white men were killed by police officers. For those of you that aren't good at mathematics, right, you might be thinking, oh, but Candice, white people represent 60% of the population, and Black people represent just 13% of the population. It doesn't matter what percentage of the population you represent. It matters what percentage of the violent criminal community you represent. And unfortunately, Black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. Let me tell you, 6% of the population, right, Black men, 6% of the population account for 44% of all murders in this country, according to 2018 statistics. That is what you call a gap. And yet white people who represent 60% of the population, we represent 13, Black men are 6%, only represent 50% of all the murders, right? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. A 6-point variation in a community where we are extreme minorities. We commit 50% of all violent offenses, evenly split, and we're only 13% of the population, okay? So we have a lot more encounters with police officers. And don't say the police officers are coming around because we're Black. I'm talking about violent criminals. I'm talking about murder. 44% of murders, okay? You want to talk about real statistics? The police officers have way more to be fearful of in the Black community than the other way around, okay? We commit On average, a police officer is 18 and a half times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. Okay? So this entire narrative is complete smoke and mirrors. It's all made up. It's just election fodder. It's white versus black because it's an election year, not because black Americans are suffering at the hands of police officers more than white Americans. Do some police officers do the wrong thing? Yes. I don't think there's anybody in the world who has not encountered a police officer.
There's bad people.
This person is an absolute jerk who is power tripping,
more
whether
training,
you are
but
black
we'll
or
get into
white. We know they exist. And we know they're always going to exist, by the way, because they're human beings. And sometimes human beings suck. In fact, if you want to attack a community for accidental slayings or brutality, did you know that doctors accidentally kill 250,000 people every year because of mistakes? Did you know there's been doctors that have been arrested for being serial killers that just were killing people because they wanted to? Do we protest and boycott doctors? Do we assume all doctors are horrible human beings because some doctors are? Or do we realize that society is not perfectible? People suck in every profession. It is no excuse to paint society with a broad brush. It is certainly no excuse to accept a Democrat narrative, okay, that black people are being disproportionately hunted down by police officers because of the color of their skin. You want to know the best way to avoid not being brutalized by a police officer is to limit the amount of encounters you need to have with them, especially when it comes to violent crimes. Okay? I am not going to stand for this continual bottom-feeding narrative of us martyring people that have had 5, 6, 7 stints in prison and then pretending they were upstanding heroes to our community. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Excuse my language. It's absolute bullshit, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of having to play pretend. I'm tired of sitting here and being called a coon or an Uncle Tom because I won't play this bottom-feeding game with you. If you want to hang up posters of criminals on your wall and talk about them as your martyrs, do it. Do it. You can do it. Kobe Bryant was my idol, okay? I'll keep a photo of Kobe Bryant. You can keep one of George Floyd and pretend he was an upstanding human being that just once or twice put a gun across a pregnant woman's belly. Could you imagine that?
Whoa. Okay. As far as statistics go, that she brought up, I wrote the one down where she said about how the 9 the police officers, you're like 19 killed white people, 9 black people, considerable, like, that statistic that she brought up. But again, this is just my raw reaction, so I didn't want to pause it there. As far as those go, again, just like with the accusations with the crimes, I can't speak to that. I'm sure the crimes that she talked about could very well be accurate. They can be validated easily. The statistics are always harder to say they're accurate or not because there's a multitude of factors in terms of where they're taken, why they're taken, how they're taken, what do you include, what don't you include, why didn't you include this, did you weigh this the same? There's a lot of factors to statistics. How did you relate variable A to variable B, and vice versa, and how did they relate to C? There's a lot of different factors. So in terms of the statistics, I can't speak to those. If you give me a couple days to research, I'll see what I come up with in terms of white on black crime, black on white crime, black on black crime. Police officers killing black folks, killing white folks. Like I said, I can't speak to that. Assuming that she's right again, I can't really assume she's right here though, because that's like I said, statistics are muddy. They're murky water. So you give time to research, and then my statistics could even be skewed because I can find credible sources that I find credible. I've learned to do that through college. Find certain credible sources. What alleys to go down, what roads to take, what roads not to take. You learn credible authors. But assuming that she's right, maybe she is. Maybe there's pull to this. Maybe there's narrative there. And she said it's election year, so she did bring up a good point. Being election fodder, that's very possible. As to why this got blown up. So, I'm not saying that what happened wasn't terrible. It was god awful. I'm glad the movement's happening. It's in full effect. But what I am saying is I can definitely see people. She said the Democrat narrative, which it would be. trying to add this fire to their political agenda fire. Like, as gross as it sounds, they would plaster this on there because they know, oh, this is going to be good for our support. This is going to fire people up for the election. They would do that. The Republicans the same way. If something gross happened and they can spin it to add to their fire, they're going to do it. It's just everyone's so wrapped up with their political agendas that it's weird. Like, part of them forgets how to talk and be human at times. um, you need to. She has some points. She has some points, but again, I can't validate any of her statistics. And yeah, give me a few days. I'll look into them and maybe I'll post a video about that stuff and stuff I found. But let's finish the last couple minutes of this because this video is running a little long. I apologize. I hope you're still here. If you are, thank you. Thank you so much for staying. Like, subscribe, do all that. Let's get to the last 4 minutes.
That woman right now, that black woman, by the way, right? Watching everybody pretend this person was an upstanding human being who just at the age of 42 and 5 prison stints was going to get his life together. I mean, it's embarrassing. We are embarrassing in that regard, right? This is why we have a cycle and a toxic culture, because nobody wants to tell the truth in Black America. It's so easy to be a victim. It's so easy to ask white people to bow down and apologize and do all these things for us. It's crap. It's crap. It's a lie. It's a farce. Our biggest problem is us, okay? It's why we don't talk about it when black on black crime happens. It's why we don't talk about it when 40 black people are killed in one weekend during Memorial Weekend in Chicago. We don't want to talk about any of that stuff. We don't want to talk about Baltimore. We don't want to talk about New Jersey. We don't want to talk about any of these places where black people are being slaughtered by other blacks, because that would mean that we had to be personally accountable, right? That would mean personal responsibility. We don't do personal responsibility in our community. We don't do it. We blame white people. Right? We only point a camera to white people when they do something, even though we do it at a way higher rate to ourselves, right? We celebrate our drug dealers. We're the only community, right, that would ever create hashtags to free people from prison because they committed crimes, like free Meek Mill, free this rapper, free this rapper. How hard is it to not spend multiple times in prison? How difficult is that? Is that too hard for us? Is that way too high of a mountain for us to scale, to do the right thing, to be upstanding citizens? That is the call to action that I have for Black America with Blexit. Like, why do we keep fulfilling this narrative? What do you think the perception of us, by the way, is on the outside? You ever look at the comments? You ever go into like an anonymous blog and see what people say? Oh, just black people being black people. I see those racist comments. Oh, just black people gotta riot. Black people gotta be black people. You know how they are. Oh, just black people being ignorant. That is the perception. When people get to be anonymous and talk about us, that's what they think about us, right? They think that we are the kind of people that will forever uphold criminals as the martyrs of our society, that we will never take account for the things that we do wrong, right? That we don't have it within us to educate ourselves to get ahead. And that for those of us that actually do it, well, we get called coons, right? You got Condoleezza Rice, she's a coon. Larry Elder, he's a coon. Dr. Ben Carson, brain surgeon, first ever to perform the surgery of splitting twins that are connected by the head. He's a coon, right? What a loser he is. What a stupid guy he is. Kanye West says he's not going to be told to do it because of the color of his skin. He's a coon. He's lost. He's in the sunken place. The sunken place. That's where we all are, right? Because we demand more and we will get more out of this society, because we're going to get ahead, right? That's what's going to happen. We're going to get ahead. Black conservatives get ahead because we don't subscribe to this narrative. Because you're not going to catch me outside trying to grab a TV pretending that it's because a martyr named George Floyd got killed. Okay? I'm a big believer that no matter what color you are, you do stupid things, you win stupid prizes. Okay? We have to do better. We have to teach our kids better, or we're not going to get ahead, right? Anyways, this is just a rant because I have been feeling super, super, super annoyed at these depictions in society. I have no apologies here to make. George Floyd is not my martyr. He can be yours. That's all I have to say to Black America.
Okay. All right. Well, that was the end of that. Like I said, she made some points that I agree with. Some points I'm not so sure, and there's some statistics in there and stuff I'm gonna have to double check on in terms of his criminal record and see if all that was accurate. If all that was accurate, I agree with her to the extent of like maybe he shouldn't be the martyr here. I understand he was the catalyst in terms of the change that happened and the big surge that Black Lives Matter got. But when you look into him, maybe you shouldn't um, subscribe to, like she said, the narrative that he's this upstanding citizen. And like I said, none of this is excusing that police officer's actions. Jesus God, that was ridiculous. But I get where she's coming from to an extent. Um, it's a slippery slope because here I am talking about this, and I know there's going to be people that are going to comment, and you can comment wherever you want. Just because I'm saying I see her point to an extent of maybe he's not the best role model to have pasted on this movement. People are going to call me out and say I'm racist and I'm part of the problem. Yeah, that's going to happen. People are going to do that. If you are, you're welcome to. I'm not. At least I talk to you. People I know, they're wrapped up in this because they think if you look at this critically and think, I have no problem with the Black Lives Matter movement. That should be a full thing, full effect. Peaceful protests, 110%. That's what makes this country great. You're allowed to do that. It's great. It's a great cause. But he is not the guy that. It's kind of unfortunate because, as weird as this is to say, knowing all of that, it's one of those things where the officer's wrong no matter how you slice it. God, he's wrong. But it's almost like it would have been more, this is a gross way to put it, but more effective or efficient in a way if he didn't have a record. Like, because then, like she said, he would fit the bill of a martyr. He would fit the bill of somebody that just lived his life and was killed like that when he was an innocent. He never hurt a fly, that kind of thing. That would have been even more effective. But I think that's what she's trying to say is that they're painting him out to be that person, but he's not. Like I said, it's a slippery slope. Let me know what you guys think. I know it's weird. I know people are kind of probably holding back, even commenting on this, even if they watch this. Please comment. Leave your comments. Don't be afraid. Whatever you're gonna say, I'm gonna hear you out. And if people hate on this, they're gonna hate on it. They're gonna hate on your comments. It's a free country; they can do whatever they want, but don't take it personally. You gotta just let that stuff roll off of you and come back and try to get some civil conversation out of people. But give it a like. Please subscribe. Share it around wherever you can. You can look at you can look in the link down below. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Either three will be down there. I'm probably going to post a link to this original video if you want to check that out too. And listen to it yourself and maybe hear it over again. And you want to see her. But thank you guys. If you stuck around for this whole thing, I thank you. I know it's a long one. It's a really long one. But thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time.